And there was a point earlier in the year where I just couldn't shake anything off. I threw a bad pass into touch, and I just knew straight away I'm gonna get so much backlash for that, and it's just not where a young player wants to be at all. Name's Jacob Umaga, 22, Wasps fly half from Kenilworth. Well, my dad and my uncle both played international rugby. I grew up with a rugby ball pretty much my whole life. Went to National League clubs, Premiership clubs was all throughout my childhood, and then kind of just naturally fell into the sport. When I got a little bit older, started to realise I was not too bad at it, and then just ended up kind of getting on the pathway of county, academy, and playing England age group. Growing up, my parents put a massive emphasis on working hard. A lot of growing up was around people saying, "Oh, you've got this name, but you're not as good." Kids being kids, giving you, a little bit of banter here and there. And my dad kind of just said, you've got to ride through it. And I tried to, put it to the side as much as possible, but obviously it does take a toll. And actually going out to New Zealand was the best kind of reaction for me for that, because a lot of people there are second cousins, first cousins of All Blacks, and it kind of just all molds into one. So I just went over there as just another guy playing rugby, and that kind of put it into perspective for me. Like it is just a game. It doesn't matter what your name is. If you're on the field, you're on the field. Everyone plays rugby over there, and that's probably why you probably play so much of it over there that it kind of just is just a game. It's just part of you do your game, you go home, or you do your game, go to the club rooms, have a beer with the lads. Whereas I think, especially more like professional rugby here, is kind of you're in the media a little bit more and can't get away from it. Whereas over there, I think a lot of people have, because so many people have played rugby, it's just kind of like, oh, you play rugby, cool. The lockdown that just happened, it was, you try and get away from it, you can't. As much as you don't want to, there's nothing else to do, you're scrolling on your phone. You're like, oh, I'll just have a look at the 30 comments, 40 comments that are there, and then you end up in the spiral of reading something you shouldn't read, or stalking a guy that doesn't have a username properly. He's just kind of abusing you for no reason. Miss a tackle, throw a bad pass, I know that in the back of my head I'm thinking, right, I'm getting comments for that, I'm getting a bad rating or something like that, and it's just then it's playing in my mind for the rest of the game. As much as it's easy to say, oh, let's just shake it off, like for some people you just can't shake it off. And there was a point earlier in the year where I just couldn't shake anything off. I threw a bad pass into touch, and I just knew straight away I'm gonna get so much backlash for that, and it's just not where a young player wants to be at all. We love our fans, but when it turns negative, I think it's hard for us as players to kind of disassociate from that. Whereas for them, they probably just put a comment and it's just out there, and they're like, right, I've got off my chest. Whereas for us, it's always going to be there, and then it kind of creates a chain reaction. On a positive side, yes, like absolutely, I'm happy to have a connection with the fans, and I would love to. But on the negative side, it just takes a lot more of a toll on us as players. Social media's only really come into it in the last kind of 5-10 years, and it's just something as younger players, because especially young players coming to the squad, we're looking for that kind of approval from people. And when I first came into the squad, a lot of people were singing my praises. Get to the England squad, scored a try in the final, and then a few months later, I don't deserve to play in the team. I don't deserve to be around the squad. I remember there's one comment online. Jacob Umaga doesn't deserve to play for Wasps at all. I can't remember who he lost to, and that one stuck with me quite a lot, because I absolutely love this club. I'm from Kenilworth down the road. I know the area really well. I love everyone at the club. I know I put a lot of hard work going into the games. I learn my stuff, and to say I don't deserve to play, and for that person it might be a loose comment, it might be nothing, it might be something, but to me it means a lot that someone's questioned how much I want to play for this club, or how hard I'm going to work for this club. And that kind of stuck with me for a few games, and I was trying to prove probably to that person that I deserve to be there, when in actual fact I know myself, my support group knows that I've worked hard enough to get to here. And I absolutely love this club, and why would I seek someone's approval who I probably don't really care about? It probably took a good 2 months. A lot of it was in that main kind of the last lockdown, when you couldn't really go out. I was stuck indoors, literally going from training to home, training from, and a lot of people think, oh yeah, cool, you're going to training, But like, if you can't escape training when you go home, you're just stuck in rugby mode constantly. And like I said, about 2 months it really took to get it kind of off my head. And only now in the last few games, even though haven't been playing as a team, we haven't won too many. I've only really started getting back to where I feel like I was about a year ago. I've realised, like speaking with psychologists, speaking with my friends, speaking with my family, that you're always going to come out of it better on the other side. And it's a good learning for me that when it goes bad, what it looks like, and when it's good, what it looks like. And any young player is going to go through that. A lot of the boys here will probably go through that in the next year or so. So it's good to kind of go through that now. And there will be another patch where it happens again. But as long as I know myself what I need to do to get to it, it should be sweet. We are put out there by the public. We are put out on a pedestal. We're put out there for people to see. And I think people forget that we are the cliche. We are humans. A lot of people go through a lot of stuff, whether you know it or not. And if I went to Dave, who's working at Aldi, and I criticised how he's stacking shelves, he's going to feel pretty bad about it. So there's no reason why me, as a professional sports person who's under the spotlight anyway, isn't going to feel bad about people criticising my game. The fact that they've thought it, taken their time to write it out, think about what they've put and still post it, it kind of seems absurd to me why you'd go through that much trouble to kind of let someone know that who's probably already feeling down anyway, that even more so, that you don't think they're a good player or they don't deserve to play in a Wasps shirt, when a lot of people have made a lot of sacrifices just to get to where they are. Everyone's trying to, no one purposely tries to have a bad game, but when people who might be there just to get a few likes, and then people start jumping on the back of it, and it just ends up in a chain reaction. Someone's like myself, ends up in a bit of a hole, not feeling too great about themselves. And it's something we should definitely look at in the future, because I'm not the first, I'm not going to be the last. And it's just the way that social media is going, it's going to keep getting bigger and bigger. So if we can educate the younger players on how to understand it and get used to it, it'll be so much better for them. To some people it's funny. It's almost like you preach all this stuff about being looking after people's mental health, and yet you're the person who's going at someone. You've got to think about the impact on someone else, on what it might be, and put yourself into that person's shoes. If someone's coming after you, if you're talking to your mate at the pub, absolutely fine, that's between those two. But as soon as it goes onto a broad platform, that's when you have to stop, think about what you're putting, think about the person on the other end of the comment as well. We want this place to be as positive as possible, and I'm sure every club is the same. If we're talking just on like a rugby, comments after a game, it's just like, the lads tried the hardest, the lads did this, they did absolutely everything they could, because they don't see what happens in a week, what we do here, a lot of what the forwards do, a lot of what the backs do, they don't see that. And it's just a lot of positive reinforcement. Us as players know first and foremost if we've had a good game or a bad game. But it's just the way that we are as a team, and as most sports teams are, we're constructive in our feedback rather than it being aggressive, negative. It's more just like, right, one bad game doesn't make you a bad player. I'm only 22. I can have a few bad games in however long career I might have. It's a platform, that we should be using for better. We should be using it for positive reinforcement, whether that's a rugby team, whether that's, your mates, whoever. It's got to be positive reinforcement, because a lot of people there, the age-old saying, keyboard warrior, a lot of people will just kind of say it and never say it to your face. But it needs to be a platform where if someone does say it, they need to be held accountable for what they are saying. Whether it's a social abuse about rugby play, if it's racism, if it's homophobia, anything, people need to be held accountable for, because it's such a broad platform that if anyone can see it. We don't want the younger generation feeding into that toxic behaviour.